I
Yeah.
see the tarot cards coming out. I see
Yeah.
them. Now,
I
let
I
me ask you, as you're
Mhm.
shuffling, are
Yes.
you allowed to go out and buy your own deck, or do you have to wait for somebody to buy a deck and give it to you?
I love this question. It's one of the myths surrounding tarot that I absolutely dislike. No, do not ever give your power away, which is our volition over ourselves. You go out and get your own deck because think about it. Why are we going to just wait? Hopefully, someone's going to buy this deck for us at some point, and hopefully, it's a deck that we actually like. Because
Right.
my friend, her name is Honor Noble, and she's great. And she helped me with my group as far as, we had a book club for a while. So me and her did that together. But like she told me, when you go and you see a deck, you just see the box, right? Now, I tell people to type the name of the deck into Google and then select images and see if those images resound with you. Because I've had decks gifted to me where, of course, it was very sweet. I'm grateful for it. I open it up but the art I don't connect with, and it's like dating. That's what Honor
Yeah,
told me. You
I
do
get that.
you meet this person, they look good, and then you look on the inside and it's like, "Wait, we're not vibing."
Hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning into the 5 flavors of happiness. We've been gone for a little while. I needed to reboot the podcast and think about the direction long term that I wanted to go. And we're going to be completely authentic and we're going to make this a sacred space where we talk about spirit, we talk about people who've had NDEs, and we have amazing people like Kat with us today who's going to talk about her passion, which is tarot cards. And I think people and energy, just from talking to Kat before we started, guys, I learned all about her background. And I'm hoping that you could share it with our viewers.
Sure. So, a little bit about my background. I was brought up in Cumberland Gap, Tennessee, a blue collar family. Both my parents worked hard to provide for us. In my background, I would always hear stories about the witches in our family. Namely, my great grandmother would make moonshine and engage in witchcraft while living in the Appalachian Mountains. Yes, while maintaining a belief in God, which spirit is complex. All the religions have value. So I'm not on here to say that one is the correct one or anything like that. But I would hear these stories about this wild woman who was very stubborn and resourceful and provided for her rather large family while engaging in witchcraft practices with pie pans, which is from the reading I've done about Appalachian witches, that's what they do. I personally don't engage with pie pans. I consider myself, I certainly do consider myself a witch, which I think we're all born with a little bit of witch in us. We come from the earth and we return to the earth. I just consider myself a kitchen witch. I love to cook and a divination one. So I love tarot cards. But just briefly, I grew up in Tennessee. I joined the military at 19 years old and I served in the Navy for 7 years. Early on, I worked on the F-18. I did all the launching, recovering, oiling, and fueling of that craft at a young age. It was pretty exciting back then, coming from a poor family. And that ended up evolving into becoming a hospital corpsman, which is all about triaging people. So Marines utilize Navy corpsmen when they go out in the field. So they teach us all sorts of various medical skills, triaging, how to help a wounded person on the field. And before I was honorably discharged, I became a medical laboratory technician, also referenced as a MLT. So I ended up specializing in the laboratory, doing testing in all the various areas, specializing in blood bank. So I got really good at basically cross matching units to make sure they were safe for people to receive for transfusions. And then I used my GI Bill because I'm extroverted to become a registered nurse. I served with many awesome nurses during the war with Iraq, which it's more appropriately labeled Iraqi freedom. We were trying to help the Iraqi people with a dictator. I served during that time frame, deployed on the USS Ronald Reagan. So it was just one of those things where I got out, became an RN. I've been a nurse for 15 years now, and I currently work with some awesome people to give behavioral health care to primarily children. So I specialize in pediatrics now, but I also help around our clinic with people with substance abuse issues. So I also help take care of adults as well as needed. So and then
So
tarot, you know?
yeah, so tell us, how did that happen? Like, how did you find it? When did you realize, like, wow, this is it for me?
Had to really overcome the obstacle of being scared of it. Because growing up, I heard so many scary stories about Ouija boards. Like my
Uh-huh.
aunt said she had one in her home, and she would talk to my mother when our family gathered about how the room would be cold and uncomfortable. She threw it away and ended up back in her house and she had to set it on fire,
Oh
like
my
stories like
god.
that. So I was thinking if I picked up a tarot deck, because I grew up in a very conservative area where there were no metaphysical stores. I was thinking maybe I would invite some negative entity into my home. And that's concerning because I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm not trying to harm my family or myself. But then I thought my whole life I've been drawn to do this and I haven't done it out of fear. So I finally bought my first deck and it was 2019. At first, it was very overwhelming because I thought I needed to learn all the meanings of all 78 cards before I could do a reading, and that's so not true. But I taught myself how to read them. I did some online courses with people to further my knowledge, and I read for friends over coffee, and they'd be like, "You're really good at this. Have you considered doing it professionally?" And I hadn't, but then I thought, I'm having fun. This is like my jam. It's a different way of getting to know people and help them. And so in November of 2023, Crow Tarot LLC was born with my husband's help because he helped me with the paperwork and all that. And since then, I've worked many large events and both small events. I can do either. I've done readings online. I meet people at coffee shops, in the public venue to do in person readings. I have just heard so many people's stories about what they've went through, their walks of life, their obstacles, and it's been an honor to help them kind of make it less muddy and determine what next steps they need to take because they ultimately save themselves. They just don't know where to go for help a lot of times.
Oh, that's so interesting. So let me ask you, when you read the tarot cards, are you tapping? Do you think we're tapping into a collective unconscious? Do you think we're tapping into our higher selves? What is it?
So these cards, these tarot cards are mass produced, right? They're pieces of paper with beautiful imagery. Alone, they have no magical powers. Okay. However, it's the reader that brings their gifts, which this is utilized as a tool. Okay. The tarot decks are. So we do generally cleanse ourselves. So when I've talked, myself and other tarot readers, we do a lot of cleansing and grounding before we read for people, especially for big events. So it could be with grounding, you take off your shoes, even if you're in your home, plant both feet firmly on the ground. And then you're going to take deep breaths in slowly for about 4 seconds, hold it, and then out for 4 seconds. Do that about 4 to 5 times. Physiologically, from a medical standpoint, it slows down the heart rate. So when we feel anxiety or anything like that, it lowers that heart rate to make us feel calm. So we can even do this at work if we're having a rough day. Sage. So for me, I get a big stick of sage and instead of lighting the end of it, I generally just tear off what I need to use and I light it. And then I used to use a glass bowl when I very first started out, and Native Americans discovered this practice as a way of cleansing ourselves, our items, and our environment. So you light it, and then you work in a counterclockwise direction, ideally with the windows open, to get rid of negativity. A lot of people, especially, do this if they move into a new home. They've had a lot of company over, so there's a lot of energy in the house. New Year's. you want to start off on a fresh page. So people will use sage or Palo Santo as a type of wood that's used. At first, I was afraid of messing sage up when I was a novice and I didn't know anything about it, but it's not so bad. It really isn't. And one stick of it, which is rather round, it will last for a while, you know? So. But as far as your question, I want to be thorough in answering it. The tarot reflects our life journey. So we have the major arcana, which reflects the major changes in life. And then you have your minor arcana, which consists of four suits, which are the minor, the mundane things we go through daily. So any type of spread, or even if we pull one card, we're interpreting the imagery just like we interpret our environment or our interactions with other people. Our brain is making decisions because it's what it does all the time, right? If you get a spread going, the images tell a story and you are tapped in. So you cleansed yourself before the reading, got your calm. And I didn't mention we use tourmaline, obsidian rocks, selenite. They're very good as far as cleansing, okay, ourselves and our things. So we utilize these various things while tapping into spirit, which everybody's relationship with spirit is different. I do not consider myself, for ethical reasons, I'm very forthright. I do not converse with dead people. They do not send me messages. I am not a mind reader. I am a very good intuitive reader, and I'm very good at reading how people are. Like during a conversation, as we're talking, I'm an empath, meaning I can pick up on human emotions. So if they're going through a hard time or if there's hesitancy, sadness, anger, I'm picking up on that, even if they don't necessarily say that. And I progressively work to where they'll tell me after I establish rapport what that thing is that's been bothering them. Even if it's for fun, I do relationship readings too. And those are interesting because we're looking at the dynamic between two people. And
Right.
those are some interesting conversations. Tarot reading is not dull. I tell people anybody can be a tarot reader. I am not special. We all have intuition that we need to work on, be aware of, and develop. Anybody can pick up a deck, pull a card a day, journal, reflect on it, learn the meanings, and become a tarot reader if they have an interest in it. It's good to get a reading sometimes from other people because we do have bias. Sometimes we have on those little rose colored glasses, our horse blinders, to where we're not like a professional, say, therapist, which I have went through therapy, who has a neutral perspective. They're not invested in you, and they'll tell you, "Ooh, have you considered this?" So frequently, I tell people tarot does not replace professional help, medical or mental. If they're having various issues, I do share with them, just so you know, I'm a registered nurse, full time, 15 years experience. From what you're sharing with me, this is a concern. If they're addicted to a substance, there's abuse of some sort going on, which gets tricky because I'm a mandated reporter. So I had one person that mentioned elder neglect of her father during a huge event. And I'm like, I told her, you really need to contact the, what is the Department of Senior Health Services to report that because it's not
Wow.
okay. It's not acceptable. So sometimes people will come to me with these heavy things. It's like, oh my gosh, or their kid is sick and not getting better despite medical attention. And what should I do?
Ah,
It can be very fun conversations or it can be very intense ones,
wow.
you
So,
know?
how do you not let the intense ones affect you? Because that's gotta be incredible.
There is a thing called Florida water, which can be purchased. It's one of those things where it has a very masculine smell to it, kind of musky. So we put some of that in our hands, kind of put that on our arms, our chest, kind of inhale that. We center, so that grounding I mentioned.
Okay.
Don't necessarily have to take your shoes off if you're somewhere, but you're going to plant your feet down on the ground. And even if you got to close your eyes for a little bit and then do that deep breathing, it's just kind of releasing that. And I usually take my stones with me when I do events and readings for people. So like black tourmaline is a big one for me. And of course, I have the selenite readily available here, but this is a really pretty one. I use that and then rose quartz. because we all need a little bit of love. Honestly, everybody's looking for love or to be loved.
Well,
And
that's
with
what I
this
wanted
one, I
to
just hold
ask.
it to my heart. It's cold,
Huh?
and so when I meditate, it feels so good. I love this rose quartz, you know?
So cool. So you hold it to your heart? That's how you use it?
Well, you don't have to use it that way. For me, for this one, it's a nice sized little rock with all the
Uh-huh.
various striations in it, and it stays cold. And so what I do is I take it when I'm meditating and I'm doing my deep breaths, because rose quartz is all about love. It's friendship, getting to know people, being open to receive love and give it. And that makes us feel vulnerable at times. But if I push that to my chest and I do my deep breathing, it just feels so good. And we actually share our energy with it. So when I do big events, especially, I always cleanse everything I use with sage or Palo Santo, because energy imprints come from the people we interact with too. So that's why usually if you read tarot, it's going to have one deck you use for yourself, but then the decks you use for others, you just got to keep cleansing them because they get everybody's energy onto them.
Sure. But I
You
want
know,
to ask you about the collective.
sure.
Are there any themes? Is there anything that you see that a lot of people are experiencing right now or anything that's happening? Because we're in the age of Aquarius, right? Like everyone's energy has shifted. Could you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Yes, I think currently, without getting into it on here, of course, the political environment on both sides, we are a divided country. We have been for a
Sure.
while. And
Absolutely.
it's friends and family members who are losing each other based on their political affiliations. We are currently in a society where when people have different opinions, instead of just acknowledging that and moving forward, people want to argue like it's sports almost. So I have conversed with people who are very saddened by this. A lot of them overwork themselves. So I actually do most of my readings for women who give so much of themselves to their husbands, their children, their partners, but they don't take the time to take care of themselves. So when I'm conversing with them, I'm like, do you have 10 to 15 minutes that you make for yourself every day to maybe like, have you tried meditating, journaling? It's not necessarily turning to a bottle of alcohol or marijuana or some other substance to numb themselves, because the problems don't go anywhere. And we're a society with the legalization, especially of marijuana, we do have people using it more instead of in a therapeutic way addressing their problems. Now, marijuana certainly has its benefits for people, say, with cancer. It helps with them obtaining a very good appetite, right? They can eat more
Sure.
while they have that. But some people are using it to numb themselves to instead of, facing an issue, which we all go through those. And then loneliness. I think with technology, we have lost the art of conversation. Like right now, me and you get to know each other, and this is great, right? But when people are away, because we're so addicted to our technology and our phones, but when they're off this stuff, like who are they surrounding themselves with? Are they participating in some sort of hobby or leisure activity? Is work toxic, or is the environment to support them? Some are miserable at their jobs, you know? And I had recently one reading from a very accomplished nurse practitioner. She was intelligent and stuff, but she had a toxic work environment. And when we discussed the possibility of leaving that environment, she wasn't very open to that idea because she actually loved where she worked, just not necessarily the people. So when I converse with people, I'm kind of like a reflecting board. I listen to them. I verbalize that this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing in your reading. Have you considered this? It's a tool for reflection, even though a lot of spreads include the future or the next 3 months, which is certainly part of some readings. I see it more for goal setting, because think about it. If any of us, not to discredit people who say they can, to each their own. It's not up to me to judge others like that. But if we really could look into the future, then I would say I would win the lottery and not have to work anymore. If I was that darn good, if I could read minds, I even had a lady enter my tent last year. She was her heart inebriated at 10:30 in the morning. And she
Poor
came in with
thing.
her little corset and her witchy hat and stuff, and she's like, "So looking at me, what would you say to me just based on looking at me?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know you, so I'd say hello." "No, that's not what I want from you. From looking at me, what do you see?" And I'm, again, very ethical. "Ma'am, I'm not a medium. I'm not a mind reader. I'm from the South. We say hello to everybody. That's what I'd say to you. I don't know you, but if you want me to, I can. If you want a medium or somebody else with abilities different than mine, please consider a different reader." So I have no problem turning people away if I'm not the reader they're looking for, because people work hard for their money. And I take pride in giving them a very good reading. If I'm not the type of reader they need, then they need to go find a different one. And hopefully that person's ethical and forthright, because there are the doomsday readers. And I get their clients sometimes who are so scared to get another reading, but they're told about someone dying, a marriage not working. And it's like, seriously? It's like the dangerous thing with this is people believe this. People believe what you
Uh,
tell them. So you're telling that person all this disturbing stuff that's heavy on their heart, and you're thinking and maybe they might, but to me, maybe it's my medical background, but I think do no harm. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat. If I see something, I'll address something in a reading, but I don't understand the doomsday readers because it causes mental harm to people. They're supposed to leave empowered and have an idea of what they're going to do to address an obstacle, not leave afraid, with
right.
dread. That's not a good thing to put on someone, you know?
It's a shame because you have these unethical people who then tarnish the reputation of people who read tarot who are ethical like you. So it's a shame that they're out there.
I know, and that's why I've taught tarot to many people, and what I have shared with my students are people like right now, me and you are talking, if it's whether it's a tarot read or just life in general. If we do not feel safe, usually people say with these doomsday readers, it's uncomfortable. That's their intuition telling them this.
Yep.
They need to just leave. Even if the reading's not over, they just need to leave because that person is probably not a safe person. Does that make sense? They don't have to
Absolutely.
necessarily be a serial killer or anything like that, like we talked about early on, but they are there, and I'm not sure why someone would give somebody a reading like that, but it's not to help them. I just
Oh,
fail to
no.
see how it helps someone, you know?
Definitely, they're lower frequency, lower vibration, right? Because you're getting
Yeah,
people when they're vulnerable,
yeah.
and so that the people are an easy prey, I guess, because they're coming to somebody who's looking for help.
A lot of people are looking for answers, and I think we lean into our faith. So I think all religions are beautiful. It's just like a faucet to a diamond. We're all trying to define this big entity that predates us, that is way bigger than us, like what is coming next after this life. And everybody with their religions has a different interpretation. As long as it doesn't harm that person or other people, it all has value. It's all beautiful. Again, it shouldn't be a peeing contest, because some people, I think, when their internal value system or faith is challenged, they do become defensive because they feel so strongly about it. But the thing is, we're not all meant to be the same. We're not cookie cutter. We're not supposed to think alike. How boring would that be? You
But
know?
don't do you see that, like, I mean, I grew up religious and that there is almost a shift away from the dogma of traditional religions and people are looking for more spiritual answers because maybe the man-made rules, they're maybe we've outgrown them?
I think partially. I really like how you think. You're very intelligent with your questions.
Thank you.
I find with faith that is within an organization that I have not participated in since my youth, but I remember being part of a community and having that support, and they become an extension of your family. It's a safe haven. There's good things to that, but I think unfortunately in our technological age, people who are in various, say, churches or organizations abuse that and do harm. It kind of shows the dark side, but that's with anything. So my roots are Christian. And one thing I do tell people when we are openly discussing faith is when Jesus Christ in the New Testament came to earth, okay, and he was born, and he visited the people who were the outcasts, the harlots, the lepers, and so forth. He made sure that they had access to faith, which was the word of God, not just the Pharisees in the temple who would take livestock or money in exchange for the word of God. He essentially tore that curtain down and opened it up to where no matter where we are in life and what we're going through, everybody is entitled to be loved and forgiven. I think even if people don't identify as Christian, that alone, that narrative with Jesus Christ and the word he shared has value because it shows all people want is to be loved.
Sure.
They just want that space. And in the New Testament, he interacted with people that were very much alone, or like with the harlot, at the well. She did what she had to do to survive at that point in time, and people looked down on her for it. So I'm sure she felt alone. And to have a figure like Jesus Christ share the word of God with her to where she's in the Bible, that shows significance. Like all people have value, you know? And so since then, I've read on Buddhism, which talks about the prince who was rich who left the castle to travel the roads and do work and learn from people to determine the etiology of suffering. I found that interesting. Reincarnation's hard for me to wrap my mind around, but that faith may reflect that if there's an issue that we have not addressed, some sort of shortcoming, that in the next life we're born to address that. So, as I've studied different faiths and conversed with people from different cultures, there's an insight to be gained and learned to where we grow from that. And I think that helps with our faith. Like, someone can be a pagan and go to church too. They're considered Christian witches.
Did not know that.
Yes, very interesting. And the thing is Christianity in history, with the Native Americans, they did try to convert the Native Americans back then to the faith. And the Native Americans resented that because they're like, hey, we got our own culture. But the
Sure.
thing is, there's good and bad with every culture, every population. We've had wars throughout history. There's good to be taken from all the faiths. So for me, when I pray, I think of God. He's at my roots, but then I'm complex. I've got an altar, which is for my ancestors upstairs, which is to Santa Muerte, which is more or less she's dead. So at some point in time, we will all die. And before we die, we go through little deaths. I also have statues of Demeter, which if you ever hear the story of Demeter and Persephone, I would say check that out. Very interesting story about the changes of seasons. I've got Medusa. I think Medusa's beautiful, but her story is also a sad one. I would say research it. So see, I've got different things going on. I'm eclectic, and a lot of people are with their spirituality. And what I do is for me, it may not be for everybody. It's just personalized. It's how I do things, you know?
To ask you, you said we all go through little deaths. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
Change. That's one of our
Oh,
cards in the tarot deck from the major arcana is death, and it shows the skeletal figure. So think of the horseman from the Bible. It shows a skeletal figure. And
okay.
unfortunately, this figure's on a horse, and there is a king bent down in front of him, a child, and it shows that death doesn't discriminate. Now, in tarot, the death card means it's change. Change is the one thing that's constant in life. So we're very much in our lives like a little caterpillar. We go in our chrysalis, and it's painful to grow those wings. And so during that transformation, we rest, right? We gain our insight. And then all the blue, that little chrysalis opens up, and then this little guy has wings. And it's like, oh my gosh, where did these come from? And I can fly. So our whole life, we're evolving and like a snake shedding the skin of who we're no longer that person. A year ago, you're not the same, I'm not the same. And we're going to continue to evolve our whole life because we're supposed to change and evolve. We're not supposed to stay the same, you know? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I was talking to someone recently, and she was another really clever woman, and she had said, because we were talking about how you need the darkness in order to see the light, and she said, "It's the darkness of the womb, not the darkness of the tomb," and that we're constantly evolving, so I kind of feel like you guys are saying the same thing, which is so exciting. It's like the universe is telling me over and over until I get it.
Yeah, very much like how you're revamping your podcast.
Yeah,
Like you introduced it, you're coming out of a different chrysalis and doing an entirely different thing, and that is exciting. So, like with my tarot, I've done different things. I've taught people candle magic for people who want to learn that, how to read tarot. I don't use spell jars a lot, but I've taught on it. And I'm currently in my Facebook group talking about cryptids, which are creatures based in myth, like the Mothman, the
yeah.
Wendigo, and I'll read from a book about them. I'll draw a tarot card that is cryptid based and then post videos so that people can like learn about it. So I've over the years, I've taught tarot to where I'm on YouTube with those teaching moments. I'm teaching about those monsters of myth currently. I just like to be creative and inventive. Again, I use tool like the tarot as a tool, you know, and it's
Awesome.
not stagnant. There's so much you can do with it.
Alright, I
Yeah.
see the tarot cards coming out. I see
Yeah.
them. Now, let
I
me ask you, as you're
Welcome.
shuffling, are
Yes.
you allowed to go out and buy your own deck, or do you have to wait for somebody to buy a deck and give it to you?
I love this question. It's one of the myths surrounding tarot that I absolutely dislike. No, do not ever give your power away, which is our volition over ourselves. You go out and get your own deck because think about it. Why are we going to just wait? Hopefully, someone's going to buy this deck for us at some point, and hopefully, it's a deck that we actually like. Because
Right.
my friend, her name is Honor Noble, and she's great and she helped me with my group as far as, we had a book club for a while. So me and her did that together. But like she told me, when you go and you see a deck, you just see the box, right? Now, I tell people to type the name of the deck into Google and then select images and see if those images resound with you. Because I've had decks gifted to me where, of course, it was very sweet. I'm grateful for it. I open it up but the art I don't connect with, and it's like dating. That's what Honor
Yeah,
told me. You
I
do
get that.
you meet this person, they look good, and then you look on the inside and it's like, "Wait, we're not vibing." The other caveat is you want it based in the Rider-Waite. So Rider-Waite is like the foundation of tarot. So a lot of decks, they will deviate with their artistic liberties to where it's not even close to the traditional meaning of the card. So someone
Gotcha.
is learning and they get one of these artsy decks. I tell them either buy a book to where you can look up the traditional one so you can learn your deck, or either get a book 'cause there's so many. And then that way you can learn easier if you have to buy one that's not based in Rider-Waite Smith, you know? Now I'm
Gotcha.
looking for the moon card because I want to show you what the moon card looks like, just to briefly revisit the one question about my painting, because that was behind me an artistic liberty, which I don't mind. I've been reading for years to where I can deviate. But as a new reader, it can be confusing if you get one, depending on how far out they go. So let's see. Oh, I'll put this guy off to the side because he gets some strong reactions from people. But I'm going to find our moon for us. There's
Was
the
that the tower?
The tower is in here. Let me see here. The
'Cause
tower
that's
is
a scary looking card. It really is.
it reminds me of 9/11 when I see the tower. And here, I just found it because I was in the military serving during 9/11. And I remember when the footage was on the TV of people jumping from buildings
Mm.
or from that building, from the tower to their death, it looked like a movie. And I remember I had an officer in that room with another high ranking man who were looking at this projecting screen with that imagery. And we knew our life was going to change at that point. And so for me personally, I had to ship blood to New York with people I worked with for their emergency efforts that evening. And I think as we're getting further and further away from that event, our younger people may not even know about it, but that's where the Homeland Security came from and these measures at the airport to keep us safe. It's because somebody stole a plane to crash it into the towers. But with the tower, so other than my personal one, what I initially see is reflecting back on an experience I had. This is just when life happens. Because at times in life, bad things are going to happen to good people. I do believe in karma, but I also believe that sometimes crummy things happen to them. It doesn't mean they deserved it or anything. But the beauty of the tower is picking up the rubble, the bricks, to build something even stronger and more secure from a foundation that may have had cracks in it. So sometimes in our life, things that we put off and maybe not address or life happens gives us the opportunity to let go and embrace change.
What a positive
You know?
spin on
All
that.
of them have
I love
medicine.
that.
There is no bad card in tarot, even though they're labeled as bad. I'm going to show you a scary one to many people,
Okay.
which is a big reason people don't pick up a deck. The devil.
Yes, that is very scary to me. That freaks me out and says, "Oh my god, the devil's gonna get you." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
What
scared of
he
it.
what he does is he does not invite. There is no negative entity in my house. Just so you know, just because he's part of my decks, this is paper. I'm not healing anything in here. Just a symbol doesn't have power unless we give it power. That's a different subject. But with this imagery, if you look, it's an Adam and Eve figure. I'm just zooming
Mhm.
it in. You see how the chains are very loosely around their neck,
Yep.
and how
Uh-huh.
with the man, it's a flame. So he's addicted to power. The female has grapes, so she likes the good things in life, right? But see how the chains are loose around their neck? So if they wanted to, they could leave that devil and feeling bound, but they choose to be there. So when this uncomfortable card comes up in a reading, it's not meant to be comfortable. It can show addiction issues, whether that be overeating, substance abuse, it could be someone hasn't dealt with a childhood trauma and it's still influencing them as an adult. It's the things that hold us down and feel overwhelming to where we feel like we're trapped and we can't go past it, but really we can by talking about it and getting help. Which then, of course, I have these conversations and I do recommend professional help, because I will
Wow.
never replace a therapist or a doctor.
Right.
This is a tool for that insight and goal setting is all it is. There's a lot of people who aren't spiritual who use tarot too. Yeah, counselors. I've heard some people are allowed to
Really?
bring a tarot deck in to work to converse with their patients, and they're not spiritual.
That's so interesting. I would never have thought that.
It's because it's one of our senses. We're visual. So when we see a picture, we're already telling a story in our head.
Picture. I
Just
love that picture.
It's warmth, illumination, clarity,
Happiness, the little baby.
happiness, like your podcast. It's you, you're very bubbly. But
Good.
it doesn't mean that our life is perfect and good. It just shows that there's more illumination there. Sunflowers also very good. But see, it's like breaking down the wall. So I have a reverse image here. But you see that wall behind the child on this white horse. White
Yeah.
color has meaning in tarot, white meaning a fresh start. Gotta break down that wall. There's a journey on the other side of it. And yes, there's illumination there. We gotta pull that wall apart if it's not meant to be there. If it's not good for us because it distances us from others and experiences. Just because we don't want to feel vulnerable or scared. If it's a life change, like moving or switching a job
Yeah,
or
yeah.
leaving a relationship where you love the person, but they're not good for you, which I will never tell anyone to do. I've had some people tell me, should I leave so and
Oh,
so? And
yeah,
I tell
yeah.
them, that is not my choice to make. That is your choice to make. This is what you've told me, and you need to reflect on that.
So now does the deck tell them to leave, or does the deck tell them what will happen if they choose to leave versus if they choose to stay?
Well, very good questions. So what I do, so say if I shuffle, for example, And because you don't have a table view, I won't bother doing the whole spread. But if I do, say, even a 3 card pull, it has shown me if there's a strain in that relationship and if it would probably be good for that person to walk away. But however, I will tell people, ooh, I see something's off here. Are you in a relationship? I'm usually very direct because I mostly go in blind. People don't ask me what they want to know. And they'll be like, "Yes." "Well, how is that going?" "Well, that's good. It's good." "Okay, it is? Well, very good." But then sometimes their mom or their friend will look over at them and be like, "That's not right."
So they're not honest.
Not always. Well, they don't know me. So at first, it's hard to open up to somebody, even though I'm like a mom figure. I'm like a Southern mom. To where I love everybody, but it's hard to open up about stuff that they've been kind of maybe ashamed about or they're in pain about. So then they'll open up a little bit to me and then we'll explain whatever's going on. If it's a case of domestic abuse, then we're talking about, okay, how can we get you and maybe even your kids, if kids are in that setting, out safely? This is my concern. Have you considered this? Do you have family to stay with? Because sometimes it does come up, or it could just be a crummy boyfriend, or where the cards show it's not a healthy relationship. But someone, I'll tell them what I'm seeing because I don't sugarcoat, and they'll be like, "No, that's not what that means. So and so is awesome." And I'm like, "Your meaning has value, and I'm glad that it's a happy relationship. It's just that's your cards are telling me something different, but I'm glad that you believe it's a good one." I don't sit and argue with people because I get cynics too who want to argue about every card. And
Yeah.
those are some of my least favorite readings. I don't mind reading for a cynic. I'll read for anybody, but I'll pull clarifying cards. So if I do, say, a 3 card spread, and they'll tell me that, okay, this card didn't make sense to me at all, then I'll pull another card from my deck for more information, essentially. It adds to our narrative, our story, right? But then they'll want more clarifying cards just for more bang for their buck. I had one lady at a huge event where I had to do 10-minute readings because I had women lined up outside my tent. They're all wanting their readings, and they get mad if they don't get them because I got to be efficient. She's like, I already pulled her 3 clarifiers. She's like, no, I want another one. I'm like, ma'am, your timer went off. Your reading is done, and I wish you will. And she got ugly on me. She's like, well, my friends won't even be at your tent if I didn't bring them. I'm like, well, thank you for bringing your friends, but I have to be respectful of the other people who are waiting for their turn. You've had your time. I appreciate your business, and I hope you have fun. But they're rare that they will drain your energy, and I gotta, like, make sure I eat, so I have my water, my snacks. I nibble in between readings sometimes because some of these events have a couple thousand people at them
My,
and not
my.
enough readers. There's still not enough readers, and so they will be booked up, and we're
Well, it
busting it,
it
you
really
know?
is telling that so many people are so interested, that there are so many people out there who are looking. And I'm going to, because I know we're running out of time, I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you selfishly to either give our readers I mean, not our readers, I'm sorry, our viewers, to give our viewers maybe a 3 card reading or maybe the show. How is the show gonna do with the new pivot? Like,
Ooh, let's
whatever you wanna read on.
let's see. I will draw 1 card about your show, and then I'll do a 3 card for the collective. Sound good?
Beautiful, I absolutely love that.
Very good. And now what I'm using is this Rider-Waite Smith deck. So it's like the old school card, but it's radiant. So they've got softer colors to them. And so when I'm shuffling, I generally shuffle till I feel like I'm done. Now each reader does something different. So you'll see different things. So for me, this card stuck out to me as I was shuffling. So I look for deviations. And I say the King of Pentacles for your show. This shows someone who's successful. Okay, there's mastery with this card. So that's a resounding yes, that your
So
pivoting will work well with your show, you know?
so thank
Because
you.
yes, so I mean, yes, it's a guy in the card, but we don't sweat if it's a boy or a girl, but it shows that stability, and it also shows kind of sticking to your beliefs. So there's that Taurus on either side, those little bull heads on his
Huh?
hair.
Yeah.
It shows that you have an idea of where you're going. Trust yourself in your direction with where you're going. And I think it will resound with viewers that you're interacting with people and getting very diverse ideas on things. And it's such an uplifting podcast. Like, we need more happiness in the world,
Awesome.
you
Thank you
know?
so much. Oh, that's so fun.
It's exciting. And there's a lot of yellow in that card, too. It shows that you've got that knowledge, illumination, from your experiences and your ideas. So, and then as far as our collective reading, let's see what we get here. All right. So, we got a very cool reading here. The first being the Queen of Wands. This is like the sexiest queen in tarot. Very confident. Again, we got that sunflower in play, the little black cat. It is a nod to the mystic, to the faith, the things that we're trying to define. But it shows knowing who we are, what we want to do in life, and being creative and having that outlet. And no matter how we identify ourselves, to be proud of that. And then also, the Six of Swords shows moving away from conflict and obstacles. So here it's leaving behind what no longer serves us. Now, in this card, you can't see where they're going, right? But it does show that we're moving away from the old to embrace the new. And I think, especially with it being like springtime in the Northern
Yeah.
Hemisphere, it's about planting our gardens. It's about getting outside. Let's work on our yards and take those walks and get to know people around us. If there's something that we've been interested in doing, that's how we fill our theoretical cups with a good thing to where we have energy, like a full gas tank for our careers, our family, the things that we care about instead of starting the day half empty. Wands shows a little bit of conflict there.
Oh,
Wands are all
yeah.
about the creative endeavors. So everybody's trying to get their word in. There may be some conflicts. But the thing is, if we don't make the time for ourselves and prioritize it for the things we want to accomplish in life, we're never going to do them. So it's all about setting goals and making small changes to meet those goals.
Oh, I
So,
love So I
yeah.
love that thank you so much for giving our viewers a read that was so cool. And thank you for coming on the show. I have so enjoyed talking to you. This has been such a great morning for me. So thank you.
You have been such a blessing to me too. I love your channel. I am a fan. I follow you. I just love that you're so open minded and you're kind. I wish we could clone you because you make the world better just by your personality. You're like a ray of sunshine.
Thank you so much. And guys, reach out, get a tarot card reading. And say it again. What is it?
Yes.
Mountain Crow Tarot?
Mountain Crow Tarot is the name of my website. So if you type that in, but you can make an appointment with me on there. It does have a tab to communicate with me, and it will send me an email to my Mountain Crow Tarot email as far as setting up a good date and time. I do in person if you're in the Missouri area by St. Louis. If you're not in my area, I certainly do a lot of virtual readings, and I'm really good at those to where I prefer Google Meet. It's very easy to use. I can see the person and interact with them like we are, go over the cards, have that really nice dialogue, and then send them an email with a picture of their spread and the meaning with the interpretation.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is
I go
very
above and
nice.
beyond. I
You
very
really do.
I value people. They work hard for their money, and I want to give them their money's worth. And I always tell them if they have an interest in tarot, just to write me. I don't charge for my knowledge sharing. If they have a question, man, this card has me stumped, I will help them, you
That's
know?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. And please reach out. Get your tarot card reading from the most ethical, most sincere, most loving heart that we have had.
Well,
And please like and subscribe. So the next time that we drop a podcast, you will be alerted. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you again. Bye,
thank you.
guys.